Thanks for tuning in to this special cut of Subject to Change. Lauren and I are very excited to talk with Ron Deverman about his inspiration and poetry.
I would say writing poetry is an avocation, but I've been very involved here in the Chicago area with a group of not only poets, but visual artists called the Northwest Cultural Council. And so we've been doing some real interesting things. We're a little bit, everything's virtual now when we meet each month, but when we did some real interesting gallery shows where the visual artists actually painted a painting, and then the poets were asked to go in and see them before the actually gallery show opened, but they were mounted on the walls of the gallery. And if we were inspired, we'd write a poem about it, and then they framed the poem right next to it. It was really cool.
Mary Oliver.
Oh, wow. Well, just off the top of my head, I'd have to say Mary Oliver, the poet Mary Oliver, who did pass away. I think it was January of 2019. And one of the things I did is I was segueing out of being president of the National Association of Environmental Professionals to immediate past president. I put together for the NAP leadership some different quotes, and some of those were from Mary Oliver, from her poem Summer Day. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Think about that one. And then another one of her poems, in fact, I called that words that challenge, words that evoke beauty, words that give us hope, and words that inspire. And so words that give us hope. How could there be a day in your whole life that doesn't have its splash of happiness?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And then this is the last quote. It's a short one, words that inspire. And it's from my favorite poem of hers, The Place I Want to Get Back to. And so they came, the deer, on their slender legs, and gazed upon me, not unlike the way I go out to the dunes and look and look and look into the faces of the flowers. And then one of them, the deer, one of them leaned forward and nuzzled my hand. And what can my life bring to me that could exceed that brief moment? Isn't that wonderful? The intimacy of the connection there is just phenomenal. And I get that poem out every once in a while. I got a whole shelf of her books over here, and just, oh man.
The intimacy of the connection, and also the very raw ability to appreciate the moment, which I think most of our culture has lost that ability to be in the moment.
Yeah.
The Sower, a poem by Ron Deverman.
Did I share any poems with you?
You did. You shared one poem with me. I have it.
Was it the recent one that I kind of reworked called The Sower?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes. And then I sent you the photograph too, so make sure you share that with Jody. Yeah,
that's great.
If you, I'd love to read it to you if you.
Oh, please, mind. Will you?
I have a very distinct memory with my dad. We had a wheat field that we had heavy rains in the spring, or maybe it was late spring, and some of the wheat, the young green, it's green, and then it grows up, and it drowned it out. So he and I literally took sacks with wheat grain in it, and then just you just hand it out by hand, and that's where this poem comes from, because I was inspired by Van Gogh's painting, but yet it linked to a very personal farm memory for me when I was a young boy. So I'll read it to you. The Sower, from a painting by Van Gogh. Blackbirds soar as you walk the open field, feet tramping the blue, loamy soil, right hand releasing ripe seeds waking. It is enough to be alive on this clear morning, the sun a radiant flower unfolding, goldenrod flooding the horizon. No moon, sliver moon silence. This field, your garden. You could be anyone, hold any job under the provincial sun, but rebirth begins here. First, the green shoots, then stems and pulpy centers, then grains forming full in the shaft. Patience. There is time to know everything we've learned, to believe that a seed grows into something larger, a life greater than the one, to believe in love and immerse ourselves in the blue flames of its promise, to feel as close to heaven as we are to this earth. Shall we touch each other as deeply? It is enough to find your footsteps in the blue earth, connecting your work to this deep, fertile land, spreading its spirit through us, deepening our roots, our bodies feeling lighter and more at peace with the day's end. The grain sack empty, the mind and heart full.
Okay, shivers
I
in
know.
that last sentence was, that's so beautiful. I love the feeling you said it so clearly, that the connectivity to each other comes through the connectivity to the earth. Right? That's something that really touched me, because I think that that's something I'm discovering in design, is that we need to reconnect people to the planet, to the earth, to the roots, to the green, to the growing, to the cycles.
Yeah, exactly.
That was lovely.
And to take it a step further, Jody, how it's, to be very present and to be very aware of, the life too, and the fact that you are just part of the whole.
Yeah. And I wouldn't, I think that we sometimes think when we're part of a whole, we're in some way diminished, but I think that's actually quite the opposite. You've illustrated through your words the value in that, the power in that.
Thank you. It really hits home, for me. And just as we were talking there in the last couple minutes, it kind of reminded me too of the connectedness to the seasons, and spring. And of course, on the farm, we're getting ready for spring planting, and then we're planting the crops, and then working with the crops to make sure they grow well. And then of course in the fall, the harvest, and then in the winter, everything is fallow. So and then everything, the spring, everything reawakens again.
It's amazing. Building on mind, body, and spirit. Comment and subscribe. When you see the little microphone in the lower right, click on that to learn more. We're so glad you're here. I love that your career and your life has touched the spiritual through poetry, and the art through poetry, and the highly technical civil engineering and assessing environment, right? and that you also the heart of it being the family farm, right? So you've got mind, body, spirit all in there.
For sure, yeah.
Weaving it all together.
do you think that it ties back to your time growing up on the farm? You seem to have, I really like how through and through, whether it be a hobby, a passion project, or your professional project, how you're always seemingly interweaving community, art, and in some cases, almost like getting back to soil. Like if you think about this fact that, an elevated interstate and bringing it back down to boulevard level, how do you think I'm so impressed by your ability to consistently weave these three things in. And do you think, was it like an arts background or something that you continue to foster despite going into engineering? I'm so curious.
Yeah, I think it is part that the fact that, I have the engineering background, but I have the art background in the context of writing, creative writing and poetry, especially. I mean, poetry is so visual. And in fact, I've written a lot of poems inspired by paintings, and I didn't even know there was actual term for it until about 2 years ago. And one of the poets on one of our sessions here with the Northwest Cultural Council called it ekphrastic writing. And ekphrastic. And don't ask me to spell it, but
Ekphrastic poetry.
It's actually writing that is influenced by some kind of visual object or some visual thing. And I thought, oh, well, that's what I've been doing.
I think that's great.
And
because
so one of my first goals, and I've gathered them some. On the weekends I can work on it a little bit, and the books I want to publish is probably those poems that I were inspired by, whether it's paintings or sculpture, or that kind of thing. So,
crafting with words.
I think it's great because what you're doing is you're crafting. So you're working with words. You're crafting words, and I think that too many of us don't understand how to communicate well, and the structure. Even if it's a loose structure, the structure of poetry forces you to be deliberate in your word choice and how those words are creating the visual for the reader.
Yeah.
And that probably, I'm taking a huge step off the beaten path here, but I bet that you are more able to communicate with communities because of your respect for words.
The power of empathetic listening.
Yeah. And I think I've learned how to listen empathically over time too. And and that's good. And I sort of came to a realization within the last year or two, and I just happened to come upon, I don't know if you remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a pyramid kind of thing, but once you get close to the mountaintop there, it's self-actualization. And that's what we all should be striving for as human beings, self-actualization. And so in a way, using the technical and the art together is helping me, I think, sort of fulfill that journey to try to be a real human being at the end of your life.
Wow, which is what
You're
a powerful
serving
thought.
so many human beings because of it in the process, right? I mean, I
really,
yeah. This emphasis and even the work that you're doing, with the White House to really focus on people who have been treated unequally for so long, and being able to move that needle is incredible.
And a wrap up.
So Ron, I have to tell you, sometimes when we meet with someone that we don't know, there's like this little thing in our brain, in my brain anyway, saying, oh my God, how is this going to go? Is this going to be I have gotten so much out of talking to you.
Well, thanks, Jody.
Thank you for your time and your
it's been my pleasure
with us. Oh, glad.
Oh, I've enjoyed it so much. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us for Subject to Change.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you,
All right.
Jody. My
Have a
pleasure.
great rest of the week.
Okay, I will.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.